And yes, it is that time of the week again where we are going to the Illusion Garden, and I did decide to do a video on this one. I skipped the last one because last one I would say was relatively easy. This one with the light Cowgirl is actually quite difficult, I would say, at least compared to the last one, so I did decide to make small sort of like guide slash how I did it, and hopefully it helps you out as well. So while the first level runs, I'll actually explain how it works. So light Cowgirls, and especially the other colored Cowgirls together with them, are very annoying to deal with, I found it, because first of all they can strip buffs, they can apply defense breaks, then they can apply heal blocks, and most importantly they increase cooldowns, which makes it super difficult to deal with them. And the one unit that I found that actually works in 6 out of 7 stages, because one of the stages, I believe it was level 6, which does not allow light units to be in the fight, is the Mumen Rider. This is actually a collab Nat 4 that we had from, what is it, the One Punch Man collab, and I feel like this unit is literally the perfect unit for this secret dungeon. So if you do have him, regardless of your class, again, if you are a cleave, just being a cleave will not be enough to deal with these stages, because especially of the defense break and the cooldown increase, not allowing you to use those skills that much. So yeah, the basic strategy for this is, at level 1 I used Theon as a booster, but I realized that having Mumen Rider as a soul link is just way more reliable, and the strategy you want to do with him is to just spam his second skill. And you know what, instead I'll actually just show you it in game while I explain it. So for this stage, level 2, Celia is a must pick whenever you are able to pick her, Mumen Rider as a soul link, and because I needed a water archer, honestly it can be any archer, I just used whichever one had runes equipped, and that was the water archer. So yeah, as for what the Mumen Rider does, essentially whenever you use a skill 2, it will provoke everyone in a very long range. As you can see here, I started using him as a soul link, so at the very start of the battle, you can just spam that skill 2. It will provoke pretty much every single, what's they calling it? Wait, what's they calling it? Cowgirl, right? Yeah. It will provoke every single Loren, every single other colored Cowgirl. That won't, you can avoid your summoner or any other units from getting hit, so you will not receive cooldown increases, you will not receive defense breaks, all of that. And the cool thing about Mumen Rider's second skill is he also gets a little bit of invincibility, so even if there's a heal block, even if there's a defense break, he will not be taking damage for a while. And the cool part about Celia, right? Every time you kill a unit, you will get mana regen, which means you can spam that skill even more often. And it already has like 50% uptime for that invincibility. And with the mana regen, you are able to keep it pretty much the majority of the time, which allows you your other units to continuously deal damage and deal with these annoying Cowgirls. And yeah, for level 3 you now needed to exclude a fire unit, but our core is basically 2 light units, so the only problem where you will not be able to use those is level 5 and level 6, because level 5 is of course all Nat 4s and level 6 does not allow you to use light units. For level 3 we just replace that water archer with any wind archer. For the majority of you, Argen will be the choice, and it's not a bad choice actually, since he does provide a defense break, he does provide a very high damage ability which you can actually combo on the boss to probably even close to one-shot it, right? If you defense break and instantly follow up with a second skill or 2, you should be able to deal with those pretty easily. So I'm gonna let this run at a sped up version. The strategy is essentially the same. Provoke one part of the Cowgirl like wave, provoke the second part. After they group up, one of the provokes should reach all of them, or you can even walk around a bit and try to group them up even more. But yeah, very similar strategy, and we'll go to level 4. And now for level 4, the strategy is again very similar. You keep the 2 core units in there, and you will need a fire archer. So I would say the most common fire archer most of you will have built is a Perna, the Fire Phoenix. If you do not have him built, just feel free to use any other Fire Archer that sort of contributes to the team. You don't need too much in level 4 unless you are very early game and struggling to deal with these, or maybe you don't have the power bonus, and even then you should have close to enough damage to deal with these. But yeah, just replace it with any Fire Archer. I'm not gonna give too many suggestions. I feel like if you are struggling with level 4, you may not have that many units built, and Perna might be the main unit you actually have. So in most cases it will not be worth it to build a second unit, especially if it's like a nat 3, nat 4, just to attempt at beating the stage, because again, those nat 3s and nat 4s are gonna be way worse than a nat 5 archer you may have. So yeah, I personally use Perna. If you do not, try to pop in any archer, power up maybe like level 60, level 70. If it dies, it dies. Your goal is to pretty much beat the stage with the other 3 units, so basically the Moment Rider, Celia, and your Summoner. If you are not able to, unfortunately you may need to do level 3, as there aren't that many useful Fire Archers. But yeah, we're gonna leave level 4 there, and we're gonna jump into the difficult stuff, the level 5. Okay, for level 4, this is the team I used, and while the run is going, I will try to explain my picks behind this one. So first of all, luckily Moment Rider is a nat 4, so you are still able to use him. Unfortunately, you will not be able to use the Celia, the Light Heart Magician, to boost up your mana, so you have to be a little bit more careful with the provokes, especially since you will not be able to use as many of them. For the other picks, I've used Mav and Colleen. So Colleen is mostly there to provide healing and an attack buff. I mean, it's the best healer and attack buffer as far as nat 4 and below units go. If you are someone like Ekina who does not need the attack buff, maybe you're playing Fire Soletta, I think Fire Soletta gets an attack buff there as well. You can go for another healer, and maybe a healer that has a cleanse, like a Lulu, the Water Howl, maybe even Shushu, the Light Howl. Again, it's gonna be a little bit rougher with immunity, because I believe both the Fire and the Water Cowgirls have an AoE immunity removal, and of course every single Light Cowgirl will have a single target AoE, not AoE, single target AoE, that makes no sense, single target buff removal. So that's the main reason why I don't really recommend using immunity as much in these stages. You can try to go for it, especially if Shushu is like the only healer you have built for nat 4s and below. But Colleen was the choice here. I mean, she can weaken attack as well. I know quite a few people forget this, that she does have a weaken attack, which is, I believe, on her basic attack. And for Mav, it's mostly there just to cycle my Cleave's cooldowns. It helps cycle the Colleen's cooldowns as well, like her heal will be coming up every like 30, I don't even remember, I think it's like 30% faster cooldown cycling, right, with Mav's buffs. And also, because my Fire Cleave is like the main damage dealer, as there is, if you notice, a lack of defense break in there, it just helps me cycle those skills way more. He will apply more of that crit damage taken up, he will apply more of those dots, and especially more of the damage from skills. If you do not have a Mav build, you can go for something like a defense breaker, because a defense breaker will also increase your damage a lot. So yeah, that's just what I used. The stage wasn't too difficult, but it is a bit time consuming, so if you notice that without defense break you simply don't have enough time, I do recommend trying to switch Mav for a defense breaker, or maybe your summoner has a defense break. Unfortunately, I think only the Orbia and the Soletta have those, so if you are one of those, you probably won't need it. If you are a Kina or a Cleave, most likely you will need a defense break, unless you want to pull some sort of a crazy strat with a Water Cleave with that old skill 2, which personally I don't really like. But yeah, that's about it, and let's go to level 6, which in my opinion is the hardest stage in this secret dungeon. Okay, level 6. So, oh, this was a difficult one. Unfortunately, in level 6 you are not able to use any light units, which means no Movement Rider, and on top of that no Darien, the Light Vagabond, who is sort of like a decent replacement for him as well. And on top of that you are not able to use Celia for that mana regen and damage buff either. So for this one, again, you kind of really need a provoke in this, otherwise you will have a lot of trouble dealing with these stages. And the best provoke I've had for this stage would be the Josephine. If you do not have a Josephine, you can look for any other provoke unit that has a decent AoE range. For example, maybe you have the Wind or the even Light Paladins, who also have a very large provoke range. You could consider using those. I personally went for Josephine, but as long as a unit has provoke, it should be good enough. The cool thing about Josephine's provoke is her range isn't too big, but the area in which she does the provoke actually fits the way these units spawn. So this means, yeah, as you can see, the provoke is in the exact shape in which these units spawn. Unfortunately for there, I accidentally had auto on, so I couldn't provoke for the first 2 rounds. But yeah, once you provoke with Josephine, the cool thing about Josephine's provoke is once she procs the counter attack, she will keep hitting these Cowgirls, and there you will actually die quite fast. My Josephine is built on an HP crit damage build, so every time she counters, she will wipe quite a bit of your opponent's HP. On top of that, for the the Dark Archer, I mean, it's gonna be hard to get a lot of nat 5 options, so I went in a nat 4 that I have, and that is the Dark Cowgirl. Quite a few of you should have her build, and I mean, there is no need to look for any other archer. It's mostly there for the damage, and coupled with the defense break from Huahi, she will be able to deal with that boss quite easily. And for the last pick, again, you sort of want some side of a sustain. I always say that for PvE, like everything regarding PvE, Huahi is like the best unit in the game. She has a healing, she has an attack buff, and she has a defense break. Like, that is everything you need in any PvE dungeon. So in here as well, I picked her. She is able to sustain you with that second skill, or rather with that first skill. She has a defense break on the second skill, and also if you have an artifact, I think it's a blue artifact called Salvation, which basically heals you every time you do damage, you can even heal up with her second skill as well. So if you see that you are lacking a little bit of damage, you can just go full on manually spamming that second skill. You will keep healing, and you will also be doing a lot of damage. And yeah, that was the level 6 stage. Let's go to level 7. And for the level 7, the requirements are to use a dark unit as well as a light archer. So again, light dark elements you will not have a lot of nat 5s for, but if you do, you can see whether that light and dark nat 5 is good in the dungeon. If you don't have a light nat 5 archer, just build your own Loren that you have received from this dungeon. She actually works very well in here. First of all, she provides a very consistent defense break, especially if you put her on a very attack speed heavy build. I think she has my either Verde heals or Thessalian's runes, but she basically has a lot of attack speed, and on top of giving that defense break, I mean, she does heal block, but heal block is not really required here because there is no healing in any of these units. Yeah, what I did for her as well is I tried to group them up a bit, because I mean, it's later stages, the monsters are a bit tankier and you will need a little bit more damage to kill of them. So if you haven't been grouping them up like I wasn't, now would be the time to do so. And yeah, for the dark unit, again, if you do not have a lot of sort of good nat 5 options for the dark unit, you will need a healer of some sort, and Viva Chill is like the perfect unit for this as well. You will charge your ult at least once in the battle, so her ultimate is a very good safeguard option for this passive healing, because it lasts like 14 or 15 seconds or so. I don't even recall it completely. And if you are ever low, You don't even need to use any skills, you just walk around with her, as long as you have the whistle option, of course, and you will just consistently keep healing everyone. The problem with it is Moomin Rider will most of the time be heal blocked by those light cowgirls, but since you are spamming his second skill manually, he will have invincibility for a very long time. He's also a night type, so a night type has a very good blue type artifact, which is healing for 30% whenever he drops to 30 or below, right? So on top of a Moomin Rider having a second life, he also is able to quickly heal up once in the fight in case he drops below 30%. But yeah, fortunately for me, he never dropped below 30% in any of these stages. And for this one, it was, I would say, again, as I mentioned, level 6 personally was the harder stage than level 7. Level 7, just use any dark unit, preferably a support that has heals, because the first two units do not have heal, and in most cases your summoner will not have a heal either unless you are a Kina. So yeah, that's about it for the Illusion Garden. More very fun stuff coming soon. This week is the career update, and there's also a developers conference or whatever coming on Wednesday, so stay tuned for that. I'll try to cover the details that are explained there. And yeah, peace.